Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Welcome to this week's episode of Comics Watch, everybody. I am joined with the man of only one ship, Jared. How you doing, buddy?
It's not my fault Kryptonians and Amazons go together like peanut butter and jelly.
Oh dear God, that's a meme in the making. And we have a special guest. So we have both the Lord of Comics and now we have the King of Comics. Boy, this is a royal recording, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
What does that make you?
The Jester.
Yeah, I was about to say the Jester of Comics. Oh, so that technically means we can tell you what to do, Nick.
No.
Yes, you can. You're the Jester. He's the King. I'm the Lord.
Well, if that's the case, then would a Jester be? If that was the case, then why wouldn't?
Well, it's like we got a coup.
Oh yes, quite a coup. So speaking of coups, let's talk about some coup comics. That was a very bad segue.
Nice.
Tonic,
Yeah.
for the two people in the world who don't know who you are,
Yeah.
can you please tell us about yourself and tell us about this awesome website you have?
Yes. Well, I am Tonic Mole, and I'm the writer and artist of Saving the World. And
How's that going for you?
yeah, it's pretty good. We started our first issue launched in February of 2020, and we're now about to ship Saving the World number 10 and start.
Someone's been busy.
Yeah, I do about 4 a year, give or take, and then we've had a few. Like there's so we've shipped nine issues of Saving the World. Then we did a Lily and Wepawet, which is a spin-off. Then 2 collected volumes, and then we've done like the occasional, like we did an art book, a coloring book, side stuff like that.
Man, you were pumping out content.
Yeah, lots of comics. And
Wait. Did you say pumping out or pimping out?
Both. I pump out comics and then I pimp them.
Oh, so you're also the comic pimp.
I'm the pimp of comics.
Oh, this is going to be a good stream. Well, recording, I could tell.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good. And so I got a lot of story to cover. So there was never an option to. Now, originally when I did the first issue, I didn't really think about whether I'd get I didn't assume I'd have a second issue. You kind of hope for it, but I wasn't planning on it. And then, it did pretty good, not huge. I'm like
I gotta say, this cover makes me feel things.
Yeah. Well, okay. So Monk does a lot of my covers, and then I started doing the standard, and then he does like the variant covers now. But
So if I want the good covers and not the crappy ones, I go with Monk's covers.
Exactly. I charge the big money for Monk. If you want to spend a little, well, it's gonna have to be me. But I met him just on Twitter, and we're both gonna be at. Oh, here's another plug. We're both gonna be at the Wichita Air Capital Comic-Con in October 28th through 30th, I think. You have to see the dates for certain. I know it starts on the 28th, and I think it's the 29th. Yeah, probably 28th, 29th. Anyways, and Jim Lawson, who he's done a lot of stuff with Saving the World also. He drew Ninja Turtles for like 30 years till they sold it to Nickelodeon.
Oh, yeah, that guy. I think I've seen some of your covers for that.
Yeah, he was hired by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird like in 84 or so right after Ninja Turtles launched, the original series. And,
so he's about as iconic to Turtles you can get without hiring Kevin Eastman.
Yeah, pretty much, because by the second volume of Ninja Turtles was just him by himself at Mirage Studios. They said, "Go ahead, whatever you want to do," and I think volume 4 was him, Laird and Lawson drawing it. So he's drawn a lot of Ninja Turtles. So, anyways, he's going to be there too. So it's going to be all three of us there. So that's going to be really cool. Now, to be fair, he's the headliner, and we are.
Wait, Tonic Mole isn't the headliner? What the heck are they thinking?
I know, what the hell, but a guy who draws Saving the World is just not me. So it was kind of course, on social media and stuff, I say Tonic Mole, Illustrator Monk, and Jim Lawson at the Air Capital, as if we're together, like Jim Lawson came with Tonic.
I mean, you're not technically wrong. You are together at the con, but your booths are very far apart.
They might be. We might be next to each other. We don't really know, but they didn't
So,
tell
Jared,
me.
what are your thoughts on all this?
You're a busy guy.
Yeah, constantly. It's not, well, I also like, because you can't have a job and do it. Like, it has to be your real job to put out like this many comics. Well, the first year though, I did both a full-time job and I did 4 comics. I did issue 1, 2, and 3, and then the Lily and Wet spinoff in 2020. And it was too much. Like, mentally, I was crazy.
Yeah.
But then, and that was when, at the end of 2020 is when I said, I'm not going to be rich, but it's like a minimum wage job. So I can just shrink my budget and just.
Yeah. And it's like, what would I rather be doing?
Right.
So it's like, I'm going to be working a minimum wage job regardless. Would I rather be flipping burgers, having a crappy schedule, or would I prefer to be having the time of my life, literally doing what I wanted? I'm literally going to be making the same money either way, so might as well do what I love.
Right. And see, so there was a little bit of a cheat. So I'm 40. So I was 39. Well, I'm 42 or something. And
So you're literally the meaning of life.
Yeah, exactly. I started living at 40. So at 39, when I was 30, me and my dad opened a tire shop that we both co-owned, and that's what I did from 30 to 39.
So did you eventually tire over it? Tire of working there?
I got very tired every day.
Jared, you knew that was coming.
He dreaded it. But
yeah. Unfortunately, I've done one too many shows with Nick to know that, that's what he does.
Yes, he knows the ground that I tread.
Yeah. And so I paid off.
Oh, look at it, Jared. Oh my god. Like, look at Jared.
Oh, gosh. Each one gets worse than the last one. Jeez.
Are you being worn out? Are you being worn out? Should we patch or replace?
Replace.
Oh my gosh. What did I show up today?
for all of my very because you were hoping my humor would rubber off on you.
Oh no.
All right, back on track. Back
on track. So I paid off a lot of like all my cars and stuff, so I could trim down my budget. And we sold the tire shop, and that's when I went to just doing comics. So I kind of was able to set myself up. And so I've been doing just comics for 3 years. Yeah, exactly 3 years about. And I mean, it's not for the timid, because you could go completely bankrupt every campaign, because it's not like you're just spewing money everywhere. So you kind of got to budget very effectively, right? And
yes,
so
you got to make sure you put the hooker money in the budget.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So being everywhere as much as you can, and being like, you have to be really aggressive with marketing and all that type of stuff, and just crunch numbers constantly. but come off as if you're not, right? Nobody likes someone who's overly business orientated, but you have to be. So you have to come off like, oh, this is just whimsical, when in reality you're thinking about it, constantly. But
You're literally the embodiment of the "this is fine" meme.
Exactly right. I got it, and yeah, some of my website, now we're looking at it, I probably need to update it. But I have my store is updated. I think I need to add to my little blog there.
Priorities.
Yeah, exactly. So on what's up?
Go ahead.
On my store, you can get digital and physical. So you can just go and get them all digitally or whatever, and read them that way. But you can also get physical of about everything, except for I think you can get the standard covers of the physical. Some of them are second prints if we sold out, stuff like that. Whereas our more hard to find stuff, like a first print of #1 or something, you got to go on eBay, but they're going for pretty high prices. Like there, you can get a second print for $10, but they sell on eBay for like 50, or a first print is like $50. But it's because I didn't print a lot because I just printed mostly what I needed. And so it's not that they're wildly popular, is that there's so few, it's all relative type thing.
So tell us about saving the world, because all I see right now is a very good looking woman. Also, thank you for Ginger. Thank you for bringing more Ginger character in this world. We appreciate your efforts to combat the Ginger side. You are a friend.
Yes.
I'm definitely seeing the parallels to Power Girl. I remember what you said on my show when you came on.
Right. But rewind all the way back to the 90s. And when I was a little kid, I liked superheroes like everybody. Aquaman, Superman, Batman. And then, of course, as I got like around 10, the Batman, or when I was 8, that first Batman movie came out. That really solidified me as a Batman fan for a while. And then about that age is when I got into serious comic collecting, which was kind of leading up to the breaking of the bat and stuff, which I think I was 13 when that went on. And so I was really into that. But then eventually the story just did a full circle, and Bruce Wayne is back and he's Batman. And I suddenly had the realization that none of these stories matter. It's just like a soap opera that continues forever, and everything's retconned eventually, or just the story wraps around itself.
Yeah, and, or it's like they just don't talk about it anymore. Like there's
right. And it was a little disillusioning because if it was a 3-issue arc, you'd go, oh, that was awesome. But when you spend like 2 or 3 years reading one arc that is this game changer, and then they say, anyways, for a kid from, 10 to 13 or 14, and you've read that's like 30 years in an adult's life.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of, that's when I was like, okay, I'm done with this superhero business. And at that, and a little after that was like, and I was always a fan of the Ninja Turtles the whole time. But then The Crow came out, and I started to read more and more black and white comics. And of course, I was becoming a teen, like 15 years old, so your tastes change. So I was reading R. Crumb and all these black and white underground comics. And that's really what I started to draw. Really dark, subversive comic strips and stuff like that. And but they weren't inherently popular, right? But also, I live in a small town in Oklahoma. There was nowhere to break out or get published or do anything. So I was just spinning my wheels for years and years. And then by my late 20s, I kind of got old and didn't want to do depressing stuff all the time. And that's also when Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor and Justin Gray's Power Girl run came out. And Iron Man had come out, the Batman Begins, so there was kind of a reemergence of superheroes. And for me, I was kind of getting nostalgic about when I was a kid and like superheroes. And mainstream comics were a lot better than they had been in those early 2000s. You have Grant Morrison on the new X-Men.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, which was controversial to some X-Men fans. But if you weren't, like, I wasn't into anything. I hadn't read a mainstream comic in years. When you jump back into it, it's so much more intellectual and highbrow than what I remembered in the 90s. So I loved it, though I understand how it's controversial to some folks, but I loved it. And
you change anything to in any comic book, even if it's a minor detail, like Superman doesn't have the trunks, and they'll be like, they ruined the character.
Right. Yeah. And, people kind of act like that. This is all new. And it's like, oh, holy hell. It's part of fandom, though. And I think that's the biggest problem nowadays is, these people that work at these comics places act like this wasn't, it's like, no, this is part of it. If you don't understand how important it is for the angry nerd is nerdom, And so
that's a passionate fan base, to quote Henry Cavill.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, oh, we have a strong black woman leading the X-Men. Star was doing that in the 70s.
Right. All of this is inherent to fandom. And so they overreact and act like, oh, now everybody's become hostile. It's like, no, that's what we do. But anyways, so I decided to do a superhero comic. But so much of underground comics, like underground indie, depend what you define them as, but Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, The Crow, Ghost World, a lot of Fantagraphic stuff was really what my style had become. And so then I was using all of that I learned from those comics that I loved and just transplanting them into superhero. And
I have a question.
Yeah.
So going through a lot of this art, and it's good art, mind you, I noticed you have an affection for the cheesecake.
Yes.
So can you comment about that? Like obviously these women are very well endowed.
Yeah.
So what kind of brought you to such a busty idea?
I think always that's the weird thing. It was probably what I think I'm out of focus. It probably don't matter, but
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's okay. So I think it was always a thing because even when I did more of the gritty underground stuff, I was always prone to drawing sexy ladies.
There's nothing wrong with that, by the way.
Well, again, also, it's comic books.
It's comic books. That's exactly right. And but as a writer / publisher, I think that there are like these tent poles of entertainment, action, which is like explosions and all this stuff, gore / violence, like a slasher movie, and then sexuality, cheesecake, and drama and suspense, which those might be the same things.
See, the thing is, boobs are kind of the great uniter. Like, guys like them. Women like them.
I love the way you phrase that, Nick. The great.
Women like boobs. I guess you could say they're kind of attached to them.
It's the safest cheesecake you can do, right? Because it is more universally accepted. If you had a bunch of guys dongs everywhere, that's very divisive, right? Because
a certain
look at Batman Damned,
right?
The Batwang,
right? Suddenly you have this where a lot of people find it off-putting, whereas boobs, everybody's kind of like, hey, that's kind of fun, but and that's really it. So when I did Saving the World, anything fun was a go. And so I went from super depressing, dark, violent comics to saying, I want something that feels like it's trying to sell you an action figure, right?
Jared, never again tell me that my comics are too cheesy because this cover exists. This is like the cheesiest cover ever. Like,
look at your covers are cheesy.
I'm doing a bit here, Jared.
Okay.
Like The boobs are the size of Texas. The guy's muscles are the size of Pluto. Like seriously, this guy makes He-Man look like a heroin addict.
Yeah, well, and I think that is, especially in comics nowadays and stuff. I think there's a lot of where people go, well, why is it so much? Let's tame it down. And it's like, but where's fun in what's that word I'm trying to find? Restraint. Where's the fun in restraint? And around the time I'd read Jimmy Palmiotti's Power Girl, and I was like, you know what? Holy shit, that's the funnest comic ever. That's exactly what I want a lot more of.
I will say, I will kind of like slightly disagree with you there as far as like sometimes restraint is good, depending on who you're marketing towards. Because like obviously saving the world is for like an adult audience, boy, girl, whatever. But for something like mine, like Screecher, where like I'm trying to go for like an all ages audience, where I'm going for like 11 to 12-year-olds, then a little more sensible design features are probably more appropriate. So it's more of like a time and place thing. So like obviously in your world, the people that you're going to, bazongas,
Right. And I think that though, like in the conceptual phase, you go gonzo. And then when you decide what your reader base is, you draw it back that way. So you look at the Ninja Turtles cartoon in the 80s. It was based on a gonzo idea. So, and I think that's why comics are adapted so often, is because we go gonzo and then they say, okay, maybe for our audience, that's a little too far. But it goes so far that we can then rewind it a little and we have this crazy movie idea or TV or something. And so,
and then the thing is, it's like, oh, but we can always wind it forward a little bit because so this is the comic, all right, and then this is the cartoon, all right. When they did the movie, they went to here,
right?
They didn't go full on comic, right? But they went they went like really, and that's why I think the 1990 movie is still well beloved, is because it has that edge to it, but it's still appropriate.
Right. Yeah. And that was a risk for them at the time because the comic book or the cartoon was so successful that, the movie guys said, yeah, but we prefer the comic. So the only thing they really kept was the different colored masks. But otherwise, Splinter's origin was kept from the comic, not the cartoon, and so on.
Go Ninja.
Jared, how familiar are you? So the other thing is like, were the personalities from the show, like, did they kind of like, I feel like I want to say like some of the personalities from the show did kind of bleed in a little bit.
Yeah, because like the comic, they were very subtle and nuanced. So Michelangelo, the whole cowabunga dude, I mean, that's a cartoon way of doing his personality. Though in the comic, he was the sensitive one. So he wasn't a surfer dude. He was the one that was more caring and thoughtful. He thought about the emotional side of things. Leonardo has always been pretty accurate because that's just what he is I'm a leader and I'm kind of anal retentive. And Raphael also, he's a little
party
bit
dude.
More hungrier, and
Raphael is a party dude.
Right. And now Donatello, it's funny because Donatello in the comic was kind of, hi, I'm also a turtle. They didn't have technology. He wasn't like the computer nerd.
So Donatello did not do machines in the comic.
Exactly, not really. The cartoon really pumped that up in a way that, and the weird thing to remember about the cartoon is that these guys had about 2 or 3 issues out when the cartoon was started development. It was very early because they only did 3 issues a year.
So you're saying you're going at a faster pace than Laird?
Even those 2 guys. And so, but back to the original point. Yeah, I think that one good thing about comics is that we can do anything and everything, and we have no budget. And especially with indie, we have no editorial oversight. And so we can do things nobody else can. And but even when doing all ages, that still applies. You just reel it back a little to make it appropriate. But and the Ninja Turtles cartoons example, they go, okay, we can't have Leonardo run Shredder through and kick him off a building to his death. But
that'd be fun though.
Right, it'd be fun. But we can't. But we can have Shredder with that suit with the blades on his hands, and we could have the sexy redheaded lady running around. And that's another funny thing about like adaptions, especially back then. She was a scientist in the comic book that worked for Baxter Stockman. That's why she wore a jumpsuit, right? She wore a jumpsuit her first appearance only. She wore this jumpsuit, and it was the third printing had her on the cover of number 2 or 3. Number 2, I think. The third printing, they had this artist do a color version. She had the red hairstyle and she had the jumpsuit, but the jumpsuit was blue. That's what they used for the cartoon. So she has the red hair and she wears the jumpsuit. Now they changed her to a journalist, but they said, yeah, but in that issue she wears a jumpsuit. So she became this redhead in a jumpsuit because of one cover.
Wow.
At the time, they had no other source material, and I guess for some reason, decided her being a journalist would make more sense story-wise to help move the plot along versus if she was just a scientist.
But if we're talking about Ninja Turtles, I gotta ask, did you watch the Mutant Mayhem movie?
I did. It was on Paramount Plus or something, and I watched it.
Yeah.
And it was okay. It felt like unnecessary because it really just retreaded everything, and it kind of looked neat, but it was this weird thing to where I don't know what happened, but I feel that the Michael Bay movies were terrible, but the Turtles were there, right? It felt like those
the characters were there, yeah.
Right, and so I loved those 2 movies, knowing they're really, really bad. Because I'm like, yeah, but it's the 4 brothers, so they entertain me.
He got the characters right at the very least. So
hey,
exactly.
I'm not saying the turtles are aliens,
right?
But I'm saying the turtles are aliens.
But
also,
they might...
look at the hand motions I'm doing.
Right.
Well, the other thing is like I think that they wanted to capitalize on Spider-Verse and like go, okay, so here's what our version of Spider, because when you watch that movie, it's very similar in style and look to Spider-Verse.
Right. And and honestly, I think that some people is like, well, what does it matter that April looks like an Oompa Loompa? And I was like, you have maybe, could one thing derail it? And when I watched it, I was like, yeah, it kind of does. Because first they go in somewhat half-hearted. Now, I personally, some of the things people complain about, I still liked. I liked that the Ninja Turtles have always supposed to been, when they enter society, they're 14 and 15.
Yeah, I like the youngness. That worked really well.
I mean, they're teenagers. You Ninja Turtles. It's literally the first word in their name.
And that's the problem with the Bay movies, because they seem like they were like at least 19, 20-year-olds.
Right. And they always have been, from the cartoons to everything. Never really felt like they were teenagers. And so I really like this, where it's like Donatello's voice hasn't changed yet and all that. I thought that was really good. And I didn't even mind the Ninja Turtles story has been retold so many times that I think there was a funny thing to where a guy started a fight with me on Twitter because I said April O'Neil was a scientist. He said, no, she isn't. She was a journalist.
I love those people.
On the cartoon.
I love those people, but I will say that, yeah, it retreaded it, but at least it told the origin in like a newer way and like try to do something new with it. So I can at least appreciate that.
Yeah, and I didn't even feel, some people thought they changed it too much. And I was like, yeah, they didn't really. I mean,
The spirit's there.
Some nuance, kind of like, and I think that headlines made people more angry than the actual movie. I thought the movie was a little boring, but I didn't think it was offensive. I mean, I was like, little kids will watch this and go, man, this is awesome, like I did.
So, Tonic, I kind of want your thoughts on this. I'm going to pull up an image, and you're going to know exactly what I'm going to ask, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're going there. So
Yeah.
what do you think about like the people who try to claim that April O'Neil was always designed to be black, and they use this image as a reference mostly because of her hair? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I happen to have inside knowledge on this.
Ooh.
Yeah. So here's what happened. Peter Laird, who's the co-creator, he said she is what she is on the cover of the comics. So she's a white lady with red hair with Irish descent, hence O'Neil, right? It would start to be weird. Kevin Eastman wanted her to look like his girlfriend at the time, who was white, but like 1/8 black or something, right? So
that sounds like a good combination, honestly.
Right. So it was a bit of this was something that exists, like this was a argument that persisted throughout Eastman and Laird's work together in the Ninja Turtles. Was Eastman would want to go one direction, and Laird, who is more of the savvy business minded, would kind of put his foot down. He's also considerably older than Eastman by like 10 years. So he was kind of like the older brother who kept the ship right. And so on this issue, pretty much everybody at Mirage Studios thought she agreed she looked like the cartoon. And Eastman was the only one that felt different. He was the artist. He was part of the, sometimes he'd ink, sometimes he'd pencil. He would lean her towards this kind of ambiguous thing, and everybody else went the other way. You look at once Eastman left after Volume 1, really, Jim Lawson really took over, and she became just this white redheaded lady. And so, yeah, there's precedent there that Eastman wanted her to be mixed race, but nobody else at Mirage Studios did, and they just didn't talk about it, right? So Laird didn't think it was really a reason, something to fight over. So he just goes, whatever, who cares? And so she kind of goes back and forth. Now, in her first 2 appearances, she's a white lady with red hair. She's that on the cover. So her first appearance is of her with red hair, white skin, and the jumpsuit on the cover of the 3rd print. That's the first time she's in color. So first time in color, she is what we always thought she was. And so let's see, maybe they have it. Oh, type in, oh, there it is. Go down, number 2, a little down, now to the right. Oh, yeah, you found it, that right there. Oh,
okay, yeah.
So yeah, that cover of number 2 there. And then when they did the color versions, they also did her white with red hair, and that was but that's her very first appearance in color. And she's white with red hair.
Purple blue jumpsuit, by the way, too.
Right, exactly. And so that's just what she was. And then and then actually on that there's a little black and white panel. Yeah, there's the color version of it, basically.
This is Kevin Eastman design. It's got to be the Kevin Eastman version.
Right. She come in and said, I got a hairdo. This is the 3rd or 4th issue. And so April comes in and says, I got a new hairdo, and it's this more curly hair. That was Kevin Eastman trying to move her back the other direction. But then when Jim Lawson comes back after Volume 1's over, she's far more cemented as the more common look we know her as. However,
also the other thing is, like, that type of hairstyle was actually very popular with women, especially like white women at the time. You like that perm,
right?
You know?
And that's where people was like didn't even think about it. To where yes, Kevin Eastman was kind of wanting to do this thing, but then again, everybody had perms in the mid '80s. So
the other thing, I run into this a lot with people, is that when they try and do like headcanons and stuff, what I always say, it doesn't. The writer's original intention really ultimately doesn't matter. It just matters what's on the frickin' page.
Right, and then you fast forward.
Well, I always wanted Ms. Marvel to be a mutant.
Sure, you did. Do we have any proof of that, or is it just for the MCU bucks?
It's for the MCU bucks, I guarantee you.
It's like when they when the Tobey Maguire movies were coming out and they had to give Spider-Man organic webbing in the case of like someone going to a comic book store and going, "Why does he have these weird devices on his wrist? I'm not buying this comic book."
Right. And
to be fair, the organic webbing was a holdover from the Cameron script for '92.
No, but it was but the comic part. I'm not talking about it from the movie perspective. I'm talking about it from the comic perspective, where the movie did it, so we have to do it because if someone comes from the movie to the comic book store, they're going to be confused and not pick up our comics.
Right, and you know, funny.
Well, you would think Marvel would learn that, because all throughout the 2010s when they're doing all new, all different, they're like, I want to learn about Bruce Banner, the Hulk, but we have Amadeus Cho. You know, I want to read about Tony Stark, but no, we have we really like Marvel had the that it was like the ultimate marketing opportunity.
Yeah,
like promoters would literally sacrifice their newborn child to have a chance at that kind of thing, and they blew it.
Yeah, it was a legendary setup, and they completely fumbled the ball. And
like go ask any comic book store owner who worked during the 2010s. Like, you'd have people come in like weekly, and they'd be like, "I want to read this," and they say, "Oh no," and then they'd walk back out, and they never come back in.
Right.
Luckily, that's why I started reading a bunch of back issues, because when I picked up a back issue thing, like my first comic from Marvel was Siege, and granted, I was lost for a good portion of it because I didn't know like all the backstory, but at least the characters look like the characters in the movie.
You see, guys, Jared is smart. Please be more like Jared.
Just read. That's why I tell people when they're pissed off about the way comics have gone. You don't have to like drop superhero comics, period. Just read back issues. All the good stories are in the back issues.
I still.
If you guys have made it this far, please remember to like, comment, subscribe.
Yeah.
Also, check out Tonic Mole. He's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But
go ahead, brother.
To wrap up that deal, so whenever Peter Laird, who was the sole owner at that time, sold Ninja Turtles to Nickelodeon, they asked him to come over and do the same job and just manage the Ninja Turtles. He's like, I'd keep it if I wanted to do that. He goes, I'm retiring. I have no interest in working on the Turtles anymore. He said, but ask Kevin Eastman. He might be interested. So Nickelodeon hired Kevin Eastman to control the Ninja Turtles. And which is funny that, like we were talking about the original movie, they could have just adapted the cartoon and played it safe. But unheard of, they decided to adapt the gritty comic book. And then when Peter Laird sells his characters to a massive corporation, which is usually a terrible idea, that that giant conglomerate, Viacom, hires Kevin Eastman to control it. That's unfreaking heard of.
That's a hell of a deal.
I think in Viacom's case, it's like they knew what they were buying. It's like, okay, this property it's already a proven seller. It's already, this or that. We don't have anybody do it. Like, who can we get? And Kevin Eastman, it's like, for one, it's a perfect opportunity because he hasn't done Turtles. He's got the name recognition, but
Right.
also I imagine he probably wasn't that expensive because he hasn't been doing much. So
Right.
like they could probably bring him on for not too much money. But also having Kevin Eastman manage it,
Right.
like that is like, oh my god, he's back. Kevin Eastman's back. It
Right.
gives you instant brand recognition. In like literally the co-founder, you know,
Right.
he's back on the Turtles. So it's just like a win-win scenario for everybody.
Right. And so it was this insane thing where the co-creator gets to return to his creation after it's sold to a conglomerate. And and over that whole run, when it was Eastman and Laird, you know, Laird made a lot of the decisions and Eastman didn't always agree with them. So this was, and the falling out between the two happened because of the Next Mutation. You know, did you guys see the live action TV series?
Oh, I know where this is going.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
Okay, they had a crossover with Power Rangers.
Right.
Oh, is this the thing about the fifth turtle?
Right. So
Peter
Laird said no. He was not interested in the Ninja Turtles mimicking Power Rangers. That
to the point where they actually crossed over with the Power Rangers.
Right. He was hell bent on no fifth Turtles ever. That there was 4 turtles only, never another one. And he didn't like the idea of a TV show, a live action TV show. Well, Kevin Eastman really wanted to do it, and he wanted a fifth turtle that was a girl. Laird said, I'd say no, but you know what? Do it if you want to. You're co-creator, whatever. It's fine with me. I won't have anything to do with it, though. I don't believe this is a good idea. But you'd go do it. So Eastman went and did it, and it was a massive disaster. So that show only got a few episodes. They did a crossover thing. It was.
I watched it back in the day, and it was indeed terrible.
The only thing I've watched is that Power Rangers crossover within space, and I remember watching that, even when I was a kid and watching it. So I booted up, and legit, I was like, "Who is that?" I thought there was 4.
They were hoping, because at the time the Turtles was lagging behind. Power Rangers was the new kid on the block, and they hoped Ninja Turtles would be revived by kind of mimicking the thing that was mimicking them. And it was a disaster. Well, Kevin Eastman was so like, he kind of staked his reputation on this. And so
oh my God.
He sold the Ninja Turtles, his part of the Ninja Turtles, to Peter Laird and said, I'm done. I'm out. So Peter Laird bought his half of the Ninja Turtles. And
the worst mistake in history, because like 10 years later, Peter Laird, I do think Peter, like based off of the way Peter Laird talks, I do feel like he does legitimately feel bad for how things shook out. Because I feel like if Peter Laird like wished, I think he wished like Kevin Eastman would have been on that deal.
Right.
What's funny is that now that I look at that, here's why it's also bad. It's like their knee pads are colored with their bandanas. But of all the Power Rangers seasons to cross over with, you chose in space.
Okay. Explanation. For one, the season that they were doing this was also the same season as Power Rangers in Space. Also, what the heck do you have problem with in space? It is literally one of the best seasons of Power Rangers.
No. I don't have a problem with in space. It's one of my favorite seasons because it's basically Star Trek with Power Rangers. It's when they crossed over with the Ninja Turtles.
It's just because that was the season that they were both on at the same time. Like
it's just
like
stupid. I'm like,
if they did Ninja Turtles a year later, they would have been crossover Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. So
the better one would have been Wild Force, because then they could have been, they're orgs.
Yeah, but then Ninja Turtles would have been doing that season 2004. You got to keep that in mind.
I know, but there's that would be a better time to do it. And then when they also had the very terrifying Ninja Turtle suits.
Yeah, and it ended up imploding. And so, Eastman just goes, he's kind of embarrassed of it or something like that. And he sells out. he sells out his half and goes off. He'd bought Heavy Metal, and was kind of doing other publishing deals, and so, and I don't know the specifics of, so Laird supposedly got like $60 million or something for the Ninja Turtles property.
I thought it was like, I thought it was actually close to $1 billion.
It might be. He got a lot of money. Now, I'm going to assume he took care of everybody. And he did so with Eastman also, saying, hey, go get Eastman. He would want to do this. And so now Eastman got to write his own canon for the Ninja Turtles with IDW.
Actually, your number was correct because I just looked it up. It is 60 million. So you were correct, sir.
This is the Nick is wrong show.
And
I mean, in my defense, I'd admitted I was wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. There you go.
And for poor guys like us, and Peter Laird isn't exactly a yacht kind of person. So 60 million will last his family like 16 generations. But and he did take care of everybody. Like I get, this was a cool thing for nerds at least. When Jim Lawson would send me the original art for the stuff he does, the covers and whatnot. And I got the box in and I didn't even look at it. I just opened it, and was like, oh, this is the original stuff. That's cool. I'll hold on to this. And it was probably a few months ago. I was sorting through the boxes and I looked. The return address is Mirage Studios. So what happened was whenever they sold the Ninja Turtles, they had this art studio that they have had since the 80s, where they drew their comics. Well, whenever he sold them, he just kind of gave it to the guys who worked on Ninja Turtles. So Jim Lawson works in the same studio drawing Saving the World as when he was drawing Ninja Turtles.
That is
and
cool.
So yeah,
so you can literally say you hired Mirage Studios.
Exactly. That would be a fair.
That is a flex. That is a flex.
Right.
You could actually put that on your marketing.
I need to. And so because Mirage Studios, it technically still exists, and they draw a lot of Saving the World. So
you literally farmed out Saving the World to Mirage Studios.
I was like, I'm too big for this. I need to outsource some of this art. And now I've hardly met anybody in person, but because I live in a small town in the middle of nowhere. But later this month, I get to meet Jim Lawson and Illustrator Monk because we're all meeting up at that convention. So that's going to be pretty exciting.
So there's going to be a Saving the World meetup.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to meet
if you're in the Kansas area?
All right. Is your wife going to be cosplaying as one of the main characters?
Probably not. She was going to. She bought the Kira outfit, but then she's like, I don't think I actually want to. And I was like, well, I wouldn't want to. So, fair enough.
There you go.
Happy wife, happy life.
That's right. And funny enough, it was one of those serendipitous things. So she goes and finds a yoga top. And a lot of my idea for Kira was that her costume is things that she could order or go buy at a clothing store or something, not like she's handcrafting this thing. And my wife found that the top that I designed is the exact same design as a yoga top, like the same seams and everything. Like it's just one-to-one, and she ordered it. And then she's like, Kira's boots are actually those rubber mud boots type things and stuff like that. And so anyways, cosplayers, if they ever want to cosplay for Saving the World, you can order all that stuff off Amazon.
Yeah, and that's kind of something like we as comic creators got in this day and age, we need to keep in mind of like when we're designing a costume, like it's like, okay, do I want to design something overly complicated that looks really cool,
right,
but is really hard for cosplayers to do?
Right.
Or do I want to design a costume that looks nice, maybe not like amazingly intricate or cool, but is easy for cosplayers to do? Like
Right,
it's basically a decision you got to make, and I'm not saying either path is wrong. It's just a choice you got to make.
Right, and you gotta also as an artist, you gotta draw that thing thousands of times. So
Yeah.
now I will say, like, my designing motto is design like you'll never have to draw it again, and then I guess that's like with everything. Go gonzo and back it up only as much as you need to. So, with Saving the World, a good example is Hobo Girl. Her first appearance, you'll see all this design stuff. She has the two things on her cheeks. She has a spork hanging from her ear as an earring, and she has a bandana that has these buttons and feathers, and then she has a ratchet strap that holds her cape up that's around her shoulders, and a bunch of little things like hood ornaments tied to the ratchet strap. Holy son of a gun, that was horrible to draw. And it was only a 4-page introduction of her or something in the back of one of the issues. But I was like, there's no way I can keep up with this in a full issue. And so then you look at the next issue and it's simplified. She's not wearing nearly as much of the little trinkets and stuff. But going way too far and backing up was better than holding back from the get-go, to where,
because when you hold back like that, you always have in the back of your head, like, man, if only I would have gone like just a little bit further, or at least like going for the moon, and you pare back, you realize, okay, I went really far, and I like, yeah, that was cool, but like I'm taking a step back, but I'm like super satisfied with like this pared back version.
Right. And it's like, like a video game graphics where your PC will run it at a higher resolution, even on a 1080 screen, so that you get as many pixels as possible and then downgrade to 1080. If you target 1080, you're actually hitting about 900 or something. You're not actually getting fully there. But if you go above,
wait.
It'll look a little better.
So you're saying when you target 1080p, you're actually over 900.
Right. Exactly. So you're falling a little short. But if you go over, it comes back and you actually get better resolution. But yeah, like that, with whether it's writing or drawing or anything like that, aiming beyond and then scaling back is better than being too restrained and off not exciting or something.
So that's pretty good. So I kind of want to like wrap things up here. So Tonic.
Yes.
What would you say to my audience? What would you tell them to do? Like what should they buy? Where should they purchase? Obviously, there is, you got the Tonic-Comix and whatnot. Just gonna put this on for like the last few minutes. Jared, I remembered last minute, so don't get on me about it.
Okay, you're good.
All right.
All right. This is what you need to buy. If you're just wanting to get into it, I have Volume 1 and Volume 2, both physically and digitally. Those are the cheapest ways to get in. And on my website at www.tonic-comix.com. And in fact, if you just Google Tonic-Comix, comics with an X, my site pops up. It's really easy to find. And then if you like those, you can buy the individual issues and all these types of things. And we have even number 10, which hasn't shipped yet. You can pre-order on my site, just like backing a Kickstarter campaign. You pay now, I ship it when it's done. And then in about a month and a half, number 11 will launch on Kickstarter. So all my comics launch on Kickstarter first and then go to my site. But I often will also have Kickstarters or have them for pre-order on my site. So if you just want to only do my site, it's all the same to me. In fact, I spend less money on Kickstarter fees if everybody buys from a website. So I'd almost prefer that. But and so everything I have is available on there. The one thing, if you're a big fan of variant covers, then that's where the Kickstarter comes in. I don't always have all the variant covers on my site on my website because I print them in low numbers and stuff. And so Kickstarters for the super fans that want it all. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. Also, I have 3 free issues on my website as well. So if you go, well, I don't want to spend money yet, well, go read those 3 issues, and that'll give you a pretty good idea of what Saving the World is all about.
I mean, I thought it was about thick thighs and saving lives.
It is.
I've read them. They're great.
Thank you. Yeah,
Wait. Do you read this comic? Can I read this comic for the articles though?
Yeah. Hey, there is a deep story behind it all, and a lot of it is, even though it's fun, and I pack a lot of fun in there.
So deep inside, behind these save your thighs.
Exactly. It's subversive in its own way. Like, it was people were freaking out so much about busty superheroes, whereas like that's exactly what I have to do.
Yes.
Yet having
you're really busting out, aren't you, brother?
Yes. I'm hoping so. I hope to bust out financially as much as Kira is busting.
Sorry, my mind is perpetually in the gutter. So like as you were saying that, I was like, oh.
And so
all right, yeah.
So they just need to buy my comics.
Yes, and on that note, I think that's the perfect thing to end this episode on. Jared, do you have any final words?
Oh wow, so many. But yeah,
well, give us 3.
It's some fun. I've read them. The self-proclaimed Lord of Comics has placed his endorsement.
Yeah,
that is quite the endorsement. So this comic gets the Comics Watch seal of approval. And if you have not read Saving the World yet, what the frick do you think you're doing? Go buy all the books, please. Just put all your money onto him.
Buy it or Lois Lane wins.
That's exactly right. Don't let the dang hipsters in Los Angeles and New York win. I'm a good old Southern boy. If we want to win,
no harm.
That's right. I don't mean no harm. I'm just trying to entertain people.
Oh dear God! This was such a good decision bringing you on, Tonic Bowl.
Oh my God!
I am regretting it already. But anyway, thank you for Tonic for coming on. This was great.
Yeah, thanks,
thank you, Jared. You're a piece of crap, but I love you.
I love you so, man.
I love you. All right. I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.